all of the different government actors and community members and others interested in this area, just because they live there or they love to go there. Because we know it's a trouble spot and we know it's a complex problem to solve, but I think we know that among the expertise that we have within state and local government, that surely we can find the right answer. So I know, I think I saw Kim Prime is here representing Executive Calvin Ball's office here in Howard County. Hopefully we will be joined, if not already, by representatives from Delegate Courtney Watson's office, Delegate Eric Ebersol's office, and also State Senator Kate Freihester. We have with, oh, I see Terry Chiconis from Courtney Watson's office. Thank you for waving, Terry. We have, well, we have a packed agenda, and some of you may have seen it, but in case you haven't, I want to make sure that I give you some sense of where we are. I think we're up to 53 participants, so I know we didn't send you all of it. This is the welcome of about an hour-long segment that we want to dedicate to this purpose, and we have invited here people who are right in the thick of it now and dealing with the problem as is, and that includes the Patapsco Valley State Park Manager, Rob Dyke. We have from Howard County Police, Sergeant Matt Tanis, and sitting immediately next to him from DNR is Sergeant Brown, who's also joined us. From our departments of Public Works, I thought I saw Chris Jagarapu and Jennifer Biddle, and I thought I saw Chris Etoff. Yep, there's Chris Etoff from our Office of Transportation. Hopefully they will give us the current overview of where we are in terms of the safety challenges there and what we're doing and how those who live in the adjoining neighborhoods can safely exit and exit. Then hopefully we'll deal with some of the proposed solutions as well, and what that maybe next steps would be. And then we put this on the agenda, admittedly, District 1 did, the prospects for increasing safe parking there for Patapsco State Park. Whether it's some protected version of that along the side of Landing Road, or finding and dedicating space elsewhere, immediately joining to that park, close to that existing Cascade Falls trailhead, that we can make better use of so that we're not endangering people. But I think, you know, for us, for District 1, we get the calls all the time. We see the traffic on social media every weekend. I was actually surprised. I tend to drive through with my kids just to see how bad it is on a given weekend. It didn't seem that terrible on Saturday, but I see Mara's like shaking her head. I don't know. It did not. I've seen it way worse, Mara, and it seemed like a gorgeous weekend. So I think that's the worry, is that we know how dangerous it is for people who drive there, for the kids and the dogs and the strollers and everyone who are getting out of their cars and acting like Landing Road is a sidewalk. And for the people who live there and are trying to get in and out of Souder Mill Drive or Grovemont, just to get in and out of their homes, and worry about things even like emergency vehicles, fire trucks, and ambulances being able to navigate what can become a maze once we get all of the traffic and all of the parking that we know we're going to get there, once weather breaks and people start really wanting to spend a lot of time in a really beautiful place. So, you know, I again, imagining that I do not have to really set a table and that everyone knows exactly the situation that we're dealing with. And if it's okay, I would maybe like to turn it over to you, Sergeant Tanis and maybe Sergeant Brown, to give us a sense of what the safety issues are there and how historically we've dealt with them, and you know, what the concerns are right now as is.
Well, first off, hello, everybody. I'm Sergeant Matt Tanis, and I'm with the Pathway Unit of Community Outreach Division. So a little bit of history is last year, obviously when the pandemic hit, we started noticing an increase in our parks and everything. We started working with DNR on dealing with basically every trailhead that enters into Howard County. And that is, it's Landing Road, Ilchester Road, Henryton Road, Daniels, to just name a few of them. Each one is a problem, a quality of life problem for the public and the people who live around those areas. But each one has a unique issue that we have to deal with there. When we start talking about Landing Road, especially at the Grovemont, and actually it's between Norris and Grovemont is kind of where we're going to talk about today. There is no parking signs on the civilian side or the Howard County side where the housing development is on Grovemont. On the other side of the road, there is no parking signs. There is a ditch area that kind of goes down, but because it's not posted no parking, it is a trailhead that goes to actually one of the more scenic areas of the park. We're starting to have a lot of parking there. In a little over a year time, we have had 197 calls for service just between Norris and Landing Road. A majority of those calls have been hazardous conditions, which means there are vehicles that are parked in such a way that somebody from the area deems it as necessity to call in saying it's a hazardous condition, and parking complaints. So they're kind of hand in hand with each other, but that's just how they are in the CAD system. We have other quality of life issues, such as thefts from vehicles and stuff like that. I think there's like 3 or 4 of those, and then a couple accidents where people have hit cars on the side of the roads. So knowing that area, Landing Road is not built to be a tourist attraction. It's not built for the be able to for people to park there. Um, and there are other ways, there are other places for there. It's meant to be, and Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just a trailhead. It's not meant to be a way of getting in and out, but people are taking advantage of that. Um, my biggest problem or my biggest concern is that obviously people are parking there. They're parking with their cars across the white line onto Landing Road. This is causing vehicles to have to cross over and come into opposite lane traffic. Um, with that happening and people are popping out of the car, and I actually, every time we went out to do enforcement action, I would take pictures of what we were doing out there, just kind of have a snapshot in case there was anybody who came back. And it's very clear that people are just walking in and out of the road, down the road. And if you know Landing Road, people don't really pay attention to the speed limit signs down there. So it is a horrible situation waiting to happen. And I think it's upon us to try to figure out a solution. I hate the fact that posting it as no parking, because then the concern comes, are we going to be pushing that into the Grovemont area and people are going to be parking in there and causing issues there? And it's one of those things that we kind of have to fully evaluate what we're going to do there. I, I I say the short term and the most important thing that probably need to do is, if it's possible, we need to put no parking signs on both sides of the road prior to the trailheads. And I think that's going to try to stop people from doing that. I think it's going to push a majority of people to other spots. We had a meeting with Park Services and DNR a little over a week ago. And one of the things that we discussed is maybe putting signage out there. It also gives directions to where parking can be, where you can legally park. So not just not telling them that you just can't park there, but also give them guidance to where the park entrances are, giving them the addresses and being able to move them that way. I think that's kind of it's a problem solver for both ends, is what we know parking, and actually helping people push to the areas where they can park. And that is the best solution I can give. I will say this, is that I've been a police officer for 31 years and dealing with all kinds of situations. And I can tell you that there is going to be, and I pray it doesn't happen, but it's something horrible is going to happen out there, because people are not paying attention when they're hopping out of the cars, and people are not paying when they're driving around those corners. And I think we're just at a situation where we need to kind of address the parking on that street and and eliminate it, or create a viable parking solution. But as it goes right now, 197 calls for service in a little over a year to an area between Norris and the Grovemont. If you know how short of a distance that is, that's a tremendous amount of calls in one area. And yeah, it was not, weather's getting better and they're starting to pile up in these areas. But I know it was a Saturday, they had 3 of our officers pretty much out there all day writing parking tickets.
Thank you, Sergeant Tanis. As I understand it, the side on the Grovemont neighborhood side is a county-owned land, and the side on the park side is state-owned. Is that right?
Yeah, that's so like I said, the Grovemont side, and that's posted with, and Chris, if I'm correct, that's Howard County, no parking signs on there, correct?
That is correct. Good evening, everybody. Chris Chagarapu, I'm Bureau Chief for Highways for Howard County. I am responsible for maintaining all roadways in the county. Traffic Engineering Division, Ms. Jen Biddle is here with me. She is in charge of putting all traffic control devices in the county. As Mr. Sergeant Tanis mentioned, Landing Road, Ilchester Road, Daniels Road, and Newton Road, all the locations where we have access to park trailheads have been having some issues with people trying to park and access the park facilities. As for Landing Road, Sergeant Tanis, what you mentioned is correct, or it was Councilmember Ms. Walsh. The portion towards Grovemont side is Howard County has a right-of-way, a full right-of-way. On the park side is a prescriptive right-of-way. So when we say prescriptive right-of-way, some of these roadways in the county that are older roads in the county has taken ownership of, the maintenance responsibilities of roadways that are old roadways in the county. When we took the ownership or the responsibility for the maintenance, we have a 30-foot easement from the center, so 15 feet from the center of the roadway. Essentially, it's for one lane of travel in each direction, a 12-foot travel lane, and 3 foot for any sign, anything else to be placed along the roadway for us to maintain. It could be a drainage swale, it could be a sign, it could be a utility pole that can be installed in that area. As and when parcels along a prescriptive right-of-way roadway get developed, they are required to dedicate a portion of the land to the county for the purpose of a public roadway, which we call as a right-of-way. If you look at a subdivision like Grovemont, which went through a subdivision review process, there is dedicated right-of-way for county roads. So we own, for example, on a roadway, it might be a 50-foot right-of-way. If you measure from the center of the roadway, it's 25 feet on either side. For Landing Road, on some portions we have right-of-way, some portions we have prescriptive easements. So the portion of roadway towards the state park is still owned by the state of Maryland. It's not a county right-of-way at that location.
So if a decision were to be made to put to limit or to prohibit parking on the park side of Landing, in addition to what's already been prohibited on the Grovemount side, whose decision is that, and what is the status of that decision?
The decision to install the no parking signs will still be within Public Works. We will make the decision to post those signs. Any traffic control devices that are installed in the county, the decision to install them is made by the Department of Public Works. So Traffic Engineering Division will make a recommendation. We do have a request from the state park to consider installing no parking signs. A lot of times when we look at roadways, we look at options for us to mitigate any safety concerns. One thing that I do want to mention about Landing Road is Landing Road is actually considered a scenic route. So when we have roadways that are scenic roads, there are certain things that we can do, certain things that we cannot do. Installing traffic control signs is something that we can do along those roadways. When we have to make major road improvements, we have to be cognizant about what we can do on those roadways. So no parking signs, in short, we can install those signs. We actually have identified potential locations of where we can install the signs. For those of you that were involved with this issue all along, I'm sure like you are aware, the signs that are installed on the Grovemont community side, they were installed at the request of the homeowners association. There were requests that came to us directly from the homeowners association. We got the request through the council member's office, through the county exec's office to add some additional no parking signs. One thing that I do want to add to what Sergeant Tanis mentioned is about this time last year, when we were going through the pandemic, traffic volumes have been pretty low along roadways. Something that I have noticed, something that we all have noticed, is the traffic volumes are going up now. Things are opening up a little bit more. There are more places that people are able to go and visit. Schools are opening, so school buses are also out and about. So traffic volumes in general have increased from what they were about mid last year in June, July, August timeframe versus where we are now. So that is a concern. I share the same concerns that Sergeant Tanis has in terms of people parking at locations where there is no room. Landing Road, there are several spots along Landing Road where there's no shoulder at all. But people are still trying to squeeze in where they cannot fit a vehicle. and creating a safety hazard along the roadway.
Mr. Dyke, as the manager of that park, do you want to add anything to what Sergeant Tanis and Mr. Jagarapu already have added?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered it all. I mean, we're concerned also with the safety aspects. I drive through there most every weekend, yeah, there's great concern about people walking on and along the roadway through that area.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. If I was to prioritize what we're hearing in our office and what we're seeing chatter about on social media is the immediate and most dire concern is this notion of how dangerous it is for people to be parking on Landing Road and to be accessing that trailhead. Again, particularly when they have their hands full with kids and a stroller or a dog or and someone comes up Landing Road and is speeding. Someone mentioned all of the other places where we're having that same kind of over volume at park access points. And I think all of them are also in our district, District 1. But this is the one where the circumstance is so dangerous that everyone who gets out of their car is putting themselves at risk and putting the biker who's trying to go down that road at risk and the driver who's coming at it in either direction at the same time. And maybe even possibly a neighbor trying to exit out of Norris Lane or Grovemont. So that for sure is District 1's primary goal, is to avoid something really horrible happening on that length of road. Right behind that is trying to ensure that we are permitting access to what is, I think everyone agrees, a really marvelous space. It's a state park, right? It's not even a county park. Like, this is something that's theoretically open to anyone who wants to see Cascade Falls. And given how close it is to the roadway, it's pretty much more accessible than a lot of other really beautiful spots that you'd have to be a much better hiker. For example, myself, like this is the thing that maybe gets people involved in parks, and especially in this last 13 months of a pandemic lockdown, that's exactly the kind of thing that we've wanted people to do. We wanted people to, maintain mental health and connect with nature and enjoy being in the outdoors with their family. So that's I guess where we're also concerned. And then Grovemont neighbors, we hear you, and we know that the concern is that the more no parking there is in that immediate vicinity, that it won't deter a certain volume of park users, and that what consequence does that have on on your sidewalks, in the parking spots immediately outside of your homes, and maybe even in your lawns. I know Sergeant Tanis has seen more of those kinds of effects than I have. I understand that no parking signs is happening within the next 2 to 4 weeks on the park side of Landing Road, at least somewhere in the vicinity of from Grovemont to Norris Lane. Is that right? I mean, Chris, can I put, yeah, Chris, I don't know which one of you is confirming it. And Chris Etoff is totally getting off, because I think it's not an Office of Transportation decision, right? But I thought the request had been made, and I totally understand why, from state parks, that this is a dangerous situation, that we're asking for trouble. And given the way these easements work, that it would be County Department of Public Works that would end up installing what would be viewed as the best measure we can take right now to make that length of traffic lane as safe as we can.
That's correct. Those signs are being posted. I believe that's the northbound direction. If you say Landing's going north from Norris Lane northward.
Okay, and in what time frame, Jennifer, do you think that neighbors could see that happening?
I would say 2 to 4 weeks, probably 2. We've already ordered the utility stakeouts for that.
Okay.
Yeah, the one thing that I want to mention is, typically anytime we do any dig, whether it's for a sign for any project that we work on, we have to call a missed utility stakeout to determine if there's any underground utilities underneath. And one thing that I have noticed in the last couple months is there has been some delays in getting the tickets cleared. It's taking a little longer than normal. Typically would be about 2 to 4 weeks, but definitely like 4 weeks is the longest that we expect before the signs will go in. Our intent is to install them as quickly as possible before the weather gets nicer, and then people start to come out to use these parks and use these roadways to try to park illegally.
And so what is the expectation then, and what a reasonable number of people who are still going to want to access Cascade Falls, Trailhead, where do we expect them to go? Is it reasonable to think they're going to go to Rockburn Branch Park parking lots and come down? They're going to park, the inch after the no parking sign is further up Landing Road and still make that trek up the side of a road that may not be safely wide enough, or they're going to park on Grovemont and the inter-neighborhood streets on the other side of Landing Road and then have to cross Landing Road to even get to the trailhead. Do we have a sense of what next step is and how we can address that or make that effect less consequential?
I think our goal is to install no parking signs to the limits where it is somewhat feasible for a vehicle to squeeze in. There are some spots along Landing Road where there is adequate width for somebody to be able to park a vehicle, but those spots are not. It's not a significant length of roadway that has those shoulders, especially on the north side. And there are some locations where it might feel like, okay, like, I might be able to squeeze in here. Can I just try to see if I can just leave a tire on the asphalt inside the travel lane and still park the other 3/4 of a vehicle on the other side? Those locations will have no parking signs. There are locations where like it's physically not possible for somebody to park. We're not going to post them as no parking. Once we post the no parking signs, and in other locations where we have done something similar, typically on the early reaction, people will try to find other locations where they can park still close to this area and access the site. I do expect there will be some additional parking, some people that will try to park within the Grovemont community. I'm not going to say that they're not going to park. What we intend to do is to advise visitors that are coming to go to State Park that are trying to park along Landing Road to use other county facilities. One thing that we also have to remember is, at the height of the pandemic, some of the other locations people were not aware of that they could go. There are other great locations within the county, other great parks within the county that can be used, that have access to parking, that people can still go in and park. Our intent is to promote those locations, to let people know to go visit other places within the county. I don't know if Rob, if you want to mention anything about parking and what advice State Park is giving to people that are trying to park within the park and once the parking lot is full.
Yeah, we normally address people to 5120 South Street, which is the Avalon entrance to the park, which includes access there to the Gristmill Trail and to Cascade Falls, which is what most folks are come to that area for, and access to the river. As many of you know, we close just about every weekend to capacity. We've run out of parking spots inside our gates. During that time period, that's when you see a great increase of parking on the outside. Really, there's just, there's no place for us to send them. In 2019, our visitation was at 1.1 million, and last year we saw 2.65 million. So you can see what kind of pressure we're under. We've closed areas of the park that we never thought we would close. We closed on January 2nd this year because of capacity. We closed this past Saturday in multiple areas. So we try to push people to come in through those gates when we don't have, when we're full. We don't tell people to go places, because even within our park, we could tell them to go someplace, and by the time they get there, it would be full. So we tell people to look at options outside of the Park Service when they come to our gates, and we're full. There is also legal parking that is not inside a gate, which is at the Park and Ride there on Old Frederick. We have quite a sizable trailhead there, and there's also the Park and Ride lot that is close by. For that section of the park, that's all the legal parking that we promote in the area.
Thanks, Rob. I'm gonna ask 2 more questions, and then I'm gonna ask Christy and Wendy to help me maybe bring up for everyone, well, actually probably everyone else can use chat, I just can't, to make sure that we're actually answering constituent questions as they're being posed. I mean, we have so many miles of trails and so many acres of park, both actually state park and then even Rockburn. It seems to me like the capacity issue isn't necessarily the overall park system, but Rob, tell me if I'm wrong, or Sergeant Brown. But just rather these access points, you know, that the parking lots that are publicly available and that are safer to access are filled on an hourly basis, you know, open, close from as soon as they open on a given weekend until the end, you know, the last hour of the weekend. And that's why we asked, and I see Nathan has joined us from Senator Hester's office. We asked our state partners here because we wanted to be sure that you guys heard the appeal. That is, we think there is a solution here that involves more effective use of those access points, and whether it's more parking in some other location. I know I've asked both the executive at the county level, and we've made appeals to persons in DNR that says, look at adjoining properties and see if we can't make safe passage to the trailheads as they exist now from off-street parking where we know we're not going to endanger people. And so, you know, I know in the ordinary course and in pre-COVID world, those kinds of things took forever and ever. But I would think if ever there was a time to expedite making use of nearby acreage that could be converted to temporary parking, at least until we figure out what the smartest, longest term solution is, that would put a lot of people out of harm's way and make quality of life issues improve significantly for those people who are driving that roadway or, you know, putting their car in a garage immediately across the street from it. And it's also why we asked persons like Dave Ferraro, who've been working on creative solutions and partnerships with the park systems, the county and state actors to see what can be done. Because I think there is a near-term solution that I'm hopeful that we can find. I mean, and we posted or we didn't post, but the social media post kind of traveled and got its way to a lot of different organizations, the bikers, the hikers, the nearby citizen, you know, the community associations. And I thought there were a lot of good ideas there that, you know, that this is the opportunity to make a safe non-vehicle lane there, not just for people accessing the park, but for bikers to actually not get hit by a car or get hit by a car door as it's opening. But that's why we were hoping to maybe daylight this issue to some of our state partners. But then the second issue, and I think that is what I'm seeing in the chat now, is what advice can we provide Howard County government, and maybe Kim Prime from the executive's office, you can help us here, is what do we tell the residents who know that as soon as there's no parking signs go up on landing, and in the absence of any alternative place to park, what can they do when they see the troublesome behavior right outside their house, whether it's speeding or littering or plunking down a blanket on their front lawn, or you know, whatever that worry that those neighbors have, is what's the best way for them to address that in a peaceable way that you know, that doesn't consume their whole weekend and still makes people welcome to use a nearby state amenity.
So is that a question for me?
I don't know. Is it a police question? I don't know. I don't, you know, we talked about getting the fire marshal out and having them check radiuses and see if they can access on a given Saturday. That's something that the fire department can do. But I don't know, even as a homeowner, if someone's out front, you know, doing uncouth things in my front yard and you know, saying unkind things to my kids or throwing a case of beer in my front yard, do I just go pick it up, or am I supposed to report that? Or, you know, and what do I do if that happens every weekend for an entire summer?
Absolutely. So let me, I guess, first off, I might have a computer glitch for a few seconds and I missed out. So Chris, did you say that there are no parking signs going up there? Jennifer, was there? So they are going up in the next couple weeks?
That is correct on Landing Road.
Okay.
I'll let you answer the question, Sergeant Tanis, and then again, I might chime in for certain things
right.
that Public Works can help out.
Part of my answer, hopefully, is that's what is going to evolve that. So when we post this area as no parking, it's not going to be. We've been going out there fairly regularly to enforce the laws, enforce the traffic laws, check on the safety. So what you're looking at is a parking issue, which is also a quality of life issue out there. Because when that does happen, there is a possibility of them being pushed into the Groveland area, and that's not something we want to occur. So I got to look at the bigger picture of obviously safety of people on the roads, but then I also want the people of Groveland to know that we're not going to abandon them and go, okay, there's no signs up, you're not going to see us anymore. I think what's going to end up happening is there's going to have to be kind of a more visual of the police officers out there, and when we can do that, then we're going to be out there. If they see something that is a problem that is going on, they can call us. What I'd like to see is in conjunction with the no parking signs going up, as we do some kind of signage education. And what I mean by that is one of the things we discussed is putting up the locations of where the park entrances are, where you can park, and having a sign maybe up there that we can direct them towards legal and good parking that allows them to enjoy the park facility. One of the things I will run up to my chain of command is possibly putting out our signboard, letting people know that the no parking signs have been posted out there. That, just making sure that even though they should be able to look and see the sign, that they know that it's out there, that these are happening. And and even maybe directing them towards, again, Rockburn Park or wherever it is they can park. To the citizens of Grovemont and that area in there is that if people are parking in their yard, if they are putting blankets on their yard, if there is quality of life issues going out there, then they can call the police and we can respond out there and address them as they are disorderly conduct, stuff like that. My hope is that the majority of people will see no parking signs, directions to where legal parking is, and they will just move on along, and it'll kind of help out a little bit. I'm not naive to not think some people won't end back up in the Grovemont, but I'm hoping the numbers will be greater than is already there. So, and again, just maybe trying to, move them to areas where they can easily access the park and legally park. I mean, we're going to be out there when there's no parking signs going up, and we are going to be, like I said, taking a look at that and enforcing what's out there to hopefully curb the situation. Because some people will park in front of a no parking sign going, what are the chances of me getting a parking ticket? That's just the nature of, it's, risk reward. So, and the fine's actually been increased to make it more than the parking. That was one of the things that we were dealing with, is that the fine was less than what it cost to park. So now the fine is more than the cost of park, and it actually kind of helped out a little bit with areas like Ilchester and Daniels. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. But to the citizens, if they do see, quality of life issues or problems out there where people are, trespassing on our property, they can call us. We will respond out there. But I will say is that I will work with the district, and my unit at SOL is we will be kind of out there being more proactive, more visible. That, that's, if I'm hoping I'm speaking at turn, my commander's on here, that, that's one of the things is we're willing to do to kind of address the situation, is just be more visible in that area. And, it's what we owe the citizens. We're going to try to do that for them, is just, is hopefully re-educate the people who have been coming out there. So that's my simple answer.
So from my perspective, just to add a couple more things to what Sergeant Tanis said, we are not planning on just putting no parking signs on Landing Road and walking away. That's not our plan. We expect there will be some situations where Grovemont community might see some issues. Our plan is to work with your community, identify locations where additional no parking signs might have to be installed. There might be situations where people are parking too close to an intersection, parking too close to the driveways. Some of those things we can address them and try to add additional signage as needed. The other thing, Jen, I don't know if you want to talk about it or if I should address. The community can also work with our fire marshal's office to determine where fire lanes can be established. That is something that we work with communities. We have worked with the communities in the past. Once the fire marshal's office determines if there's any fire lanes that need to be installed, if the road is too close or too narrow for people to park on both sides and vehicles can't get in, get out, those are situations where we determine that a fire lane needs to be established. And once that is established, Public Works will go and install some of those signage as well. In terms of picking up litter and other things, if it's along the county roadways, give us a call, notify us about any litter issues, and my office will handle those complaints along public roadways. If the litter is on private property, obviously, like I don't go on private property picking up litter, but if it's along county roadways, that is something that Bureau of Highways will take care of.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Adrian Thomas. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, hopefully to say yes, everything Sergeant Tanis said, because we are very appreciative of that willingness of the police department to step in on some of those nuisance quality of life issues that we expect there.
Matt did a great job. I have nothing to add. We've actually been working together over the past year, trying to develop a plan. I know I had all my outreach sections. I managed 4 outreach sections, well, 4 sections, pathways, neighborhood, community resource officers, community outreach, as well as mental health. So last year we kind of developed an ops plan for each group to rotate through and help with parking enforcement, which took a huge burden off of patrol officers because they were getting called multiple times a day. But again, we've been anticipating, with the warm weather, people kind of merging out there and causing another issue this year. So I'm glad that everybody actually has some type of hand in this, because to be honest, it was kind of overwhelming to our unit because we can only do so much in addition to community events and, meeting with other community stakeholders for other things. So thank you all for taking an interest, and I hope that we can all, join forces and get this straightened out. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you so much. With that, we're going to go to hands raised, and I think by our count, Tony Powell and Lisa Guth were first up. So Tony, I think we're going to try and unmute you, and the floor is yours. Nope, not yet. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh, it looks like maybe now.
Okay, thank you. I live at 5207 Grovemont Drive. My home is one house in from Landing Road. I appreciate all of the potential solutions and efforts and concerns about safety on Landing Road. I have to take exception to certain of the comments. It appears that folks on this call who are speaking do not realize that we already have a parking problem in the Grovemont neighborhood. You can come to our neighborhood on any weekend day. Sometimes during the week, there will be cars parked on both sides of the road, on Grovemont and on the neighboring streets as well. At this point, your solution to eliminate some of the parking on Landing Road, and I understand that because cars have gotten stuck on that incline into the park, it is only going to drive more parking into Grovemont. Our neighborhood should not be the free parking for Patapsco State Park. There are other of my neighbors who probably have their hands up to speak as well, but these solutions, they aren't good enough. They aren't going to work for us. So something else needs to happen. That's it from me. Thank you.
Tony, I know you say that's it. Thank you. But I mean, do you have what solutions? I mean, do you have any, or have you thought of any that might be more productive for persons in your location?
We had asked about permit parking for the Grovemont neighborhood. Is that possible?
Jen or Chris, can you address that question? I mean, my understanding is it's not something that's available in any location in Howard County at this point.
That is correct. Howard County currently does not have any residential permit parking along county roadways. There are some communities where the parking, mainly like older townhouse communities, where the parking spaces themselves are not in the county right away 100%. Those locations, the community HOA, it's in the common space or the open space of a community. Those locations, the communities have installed reserved parking. The only time we would have a reserved parking along a county roadway is if someone is disabled and they approach the Maryland MBA and they are assigned a parking space along county roadway. Then we actually install an accessible parking space sign for residents that along county roadway where we reserve. Outside of that, the county does not reserve any parking spaces in the county. I have talked to other jurisdictions that have residential permit parking. They mainly use them in locations where they have, whether it's a high transit area or in locations where parking is not feasible. We are looking into some of those locations. I'm not going to come here and say, like, no, that is not a program that we'll never entertain. However, I think to install a program, such a program in the county, that would require significant manpower. In case if you don't know, like, traffic engineering division, like, has 6 employees that work. They deal with, county has over 3,650 roads. It's a large responsibility for a small group. I currently do not have any staff that can oversee a new program to issue permit parking for residential communities. It is something that we're exploring. We're talking to other jurisdictions that have these residential permit parking to understand, like, the challenges that they're going through, how they're implementing these programs. So that is something that we're looking into, but in the short term, that is not a solution that we have available that I can offer at this point.
Thanks, Chris. And Tony, I mean, in talking even to Jennifer in preparation for this meeting, Jennifer brought up this notion of the fire marshal and their inspection of a community to see whether or not it's safely accessible. I do think that that's in the very nearest term something that that we can help you set up directly with the fire department, and they can come out and do that survey and make that determination of whether or not there should be locations within your neighborhood. I'm guessing probably closer to the entrance versus further inside of it, where that would be a concern and there would be immediate action taken aside from what our Department of Public Works can do within the community. Lisa Guth?
Hello, thank you. So I am Lisa Guth. I'm the president of Cascade Preserve Homeowners Association. We are part of the Cascade Overlook off of Royal Coachman. So Royal Coachman, Pale Morning Dun, March Brown Road, all of our roads are back off of Landing. There is a hidden entrance to the state park off of Pale Morning Dun. It is back, that is part of the Cascade Overlook HOA. And the public has become aware of this entrance. So we are seeing an increase. We have about, between the two HOAs, about 100 homes, and they're getting ready to build another 16 in between our neighborhoods there. So we are very concerned about, one, we've been concerned about the traffic on Landing Road overall, but two, we are now seeing the public parking at the back end of our neighborhood. So nowhere near Landing Road. They're coming back in and parking on Pale Morning Dun. So if anyone has ever been back into our neighborhood, we are like March Brown Road, Pale Morning Dun are tertiary streets. There is barely enough, you barely have enough room for 2 cars in either direction unimpeded. So if you have all these additional parkers coming in, we do not have enough room for clearance for fire trucks, for police vehicles, for any kind of emergency vehicles that would be coming into our neighborhood. We have enough residents trying to park on the street as it is. So the uptick in the public coming in, the non-residents coming in, is a huge concern for us as well. So we are hopeful that, I don't know if the best thing to do is to get our own parking signs, to have some sort of contract with, with the tow truck company. I'm not really sure what the answer is, but we definitely need assistance as well.
All right, thank you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. John
You're welcome.
Lingenfelter? I do not see you, but John, are you on? I don't know, Christy or Wendy, if you see John. He was next on my list, and then I have Bogdan.
John is on.
John
John
is
is on.
on. John is on.
Are you unmuted, John? Nope. Christy, can you unmute John?
It says he's unmuted.
You might need to unmute yourself too.
Oh, I see him.
Yeah, it says you're unmuted.
So while we're waiting in response to Ms. Guth, so for any parking signs that need to be installed
Can you guys hear me now?
along county roadways, please contact our office. If you can send an email to us at traffic@howardcountymd.gov or highways@howardcountymd.gov.
Okay.
We'll take a look at them to see what we can do to assist. You do not have to purchase your own no parking signs.
Chris,
You're actually not allowed to
could
put
you
your
or
own no
Jen put
parking
that in
signs
the
on
chat?
county roads.
Chris, can you type that in the chat, you or Jen for us, for the residents? Thank you.
All right, we did hear you, John. Thanks, Chris.
Great, can you hear me?
We can, yes.
All right, perfect. First of all, thank you very much, Liz, for organizing this, and also wanted to thank Terry from Maryland and joining. I know she's staying close to this one. Also, all of the Howard County representatives here today. This is definitely very important for us as far as public safety and quality of life goes. And I really like the way Lisa is talking right now about contracting with private towing companies. And I'm also, just to give you I guess, perspective on where I live, I'm at 7129 Collingwood, which backs up to Landing. So I really appreciate the no parking signs going in, because we've been dealing with a lot of the issues with quality of life, not to mention public safety. And I wanted to also mention that I wanted to second what Tony's saying about Grovemont. When you drive down there, you're driving down one lane basically, and you're waiting for others to come. And there's little kids darting in and out of cars, and eventually someone's going to get hit on Grovemont. I think Woolton, we might see people starting to pull up Woolton, and eventually I'm going to see what Tony's seeing, because if you make a left off of Grovemont or right off of Woolton, you're eventually going to get to my house. But as far as what Lisa's saying on towing, we do have no trespassing signs posted at both entrances into Grovemont. And it is private property, and it's owned by the HOA. I can't speak for the HOA. I'm not a member of the HOA, but I can tell you that as a homeowner here, I will be pushing forward with, and Tony, I encourage you to do the same, and anyone else here in Grovemont, push the HOA to put up some type of signage about towing. Because that's the way we're going to do this. We're dependent upon the county and the state to help us out with the county roads. But as far as private property goes, we can make that call. As property owners, if someone's trespassing on our property and they have not been invited, we can put forth an effort to contract, and I'll be the first person to pull out my wallet if it means increasing the HOA fees. I think it's important for us to do for quality of life. Not to mention, the towing company is not going to charge us a dime. The person that gets towed pays that fee. So that's all I have to say. Again, thank you, public officials, for being here. Thank you for watching this. But Grovemont folks, and also Lisa, your development, I think that's a perfect way to go. And it might sound unneighborly, but we've been dealing with this for over a year. And this is no way to live, and we do have legal options.
And that's all I have to say, but I'm willing to answer any questions if you guys have any.
Thanks, Joan.
Sure.
Bogdan? I think you are next.
Hi, thank you for taking the time. Just to answer John's or kind of set the table straight, the roads are county property. They're not association property, so we cannot put no parking or anything on them. We cannot tow people from there. That being said, I want to echo Tony's idea that if we put no parking there with no other alternative, we're just gonna move the risk from Landing Road into Groveman, right? So instead of people getting hit on Landing, they're going to get hit on in Groveman, and the calls to the police, they're going to be, instead of 175 on Landing, they're going to be 175 on Groveman or Hatterby Court. I mean, we do call the police probably every day, every weekend, at least a couple of times for parking violations and all that stuff. And while I appreciate, like, Chris' idea to call them if there is a litter on Hatterby Court, I'm on Hatterby Court, that's not feasible because people typically dump the litter within our own property, at which point, obviously, he said he cannot do anything. The same goes for the police. We call the police for somebody parked halfway on the property, and basically they said if they are parked on your property, that is not under their jurisdiction, and we need to get a judge to issue some sort of a court order so I get them towed out of my property. So there is all kinds of other ramifications there. Is not as simple as, you know, call us, get us to pick up the litter, or call us for trespassing and all that stuff. I mean, even to show up, it's probably at least half an hour until a police car gets there after you call. And by that time, either people are already in the park or they already left. So I don't think that's feasible to just put no parking sign. I know that it's tough, but I think no parking signs there will just move the problem from one location to another. Also, don't forget that the entrance to Grove Mountain Hatterby, it's also traffic from the school, from the Trinity. So you add that on top of your parking, and pretty much this is not a residential neighborhood anymore. It's one of the busiest streets within the district at certain times of day and the week. So I don't know, other than residential parking or maybe no parking altogether, at least in sections of Groveman, to deter people from going into that, at least temporarily, until we find a different location. I'm not sure putting those no parking sign will solve anything. Yeah, it will move it out of the landing, and you're not going to have somebody hitting you at 40 miles per hour, but you're still going to have somebody hitting you at 15 miles per hour within the neighborhood. So open to suggestions, and I appreciate the police responding to that, because people are parking even on the Groveman side. They're parking right next to the no parking signs. So some people don't care even about the signage. So there's going to be lots of calls if that's the way we're going to approach this.
Thank you. And I'm not going to ask someone on the government side to answer each of these questions. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to have time to get to the questions that we have. But I know certainly we're taking notes. Chris and Jennifer are providing the contact information for DPW. If any other state or county entity wants to go ahead and put their information there in the chat, then individuals can reach out to you. But we will follow up with both the written questions that are appearing in the chat and these that you mentioned as we go through this list. Next on our list, though, is Trevor Scott, and then Julia is behind him. Oh, I see Trevor.
Hello. I'm just wondering whether Belmont has been considered as an option for either temporary or possibly permanent parking. Just using some of the acreage there, because the hike from Belmont to Cascade Falls is about the same as Landing down to Cascade Falls. So that might help to offload some of the pressure.
Trevor, you're making me break my rule that I just said just now. And I saw John Marshall raising his hand. But I mean, that's one of the reasons, again, that we have some of these state and the county, you know, that's what we're looking for is solutions. I know Wendy has been looking at a lot of overhead maps. And John, do you have something to add to that?
Well, we have several restrictions on the use of Belmont, both from the MHT and the MET. So additional parking on Belmont will not be used. Of course, every weekend except for the winter months, we have weddings and functions there. So I'm afraid that's not an option.
And even Rockburn, right? That's what I worry about at Rockburn. Once people are allowed to play games and we have conferences, those parking lots fill up, certainly around the fields and even the overflow lots. So with that, I'll go to Julia. Who's next? Thank you.
Oh,
Julia.
hello. It's a very, very important topic. I definitely appreciate your addressing this. However, I'm getting very, very nervous by all of this because I'm not on Landing Road. I'm in the Bonnie Branch, Ilchester area. And I'm getting nervous because I have a sense that once the no parking signs go up on Landing Road, everyone's going to think, oh yes, the Ilchester entrance is a quite convenient entrance. And unfortunately, the residents right on Ilchester have been working with the county to put up signs, and over on the Baltimore County side, the Simpkins Mill has found out that a good relationship with the towing company has been good for them, because I've heard that they've been somewhat aggressive over there with towing people while they're still in their car. Sometimes, it's here and there, but I just want to caution, because we don't have an HOA up on this road here. It's just all of us kind of struggling on our own. But what we have seen is that people now, instead of parking on Ilchester because they know they're going to be towed because no parking sign is there, they're parking all up and down Bonnie Branch Road now. And so the very serious issue, and also, I should also mention that I have seen ideas of asking Simpkins to turn that area that used to be the Simpkins Mill area into a parking area, because it's nice and flat. What I would say is I'm very concerned about the additional or potential extreme amount of population coming to this particular area, because it is very isolated. And although everyone wants everyone to enjoy the park, there are various scary things that start to occur when the daylight goes. And we know what it is. We can see the huge amounts of graffiti that are going on up in the Simpkins Mill side, and there's drug dealing. And sadly, there was a murder that occurred over on the Baltimore County side a couple years ago, and it's very scary. So if the consideration is, well, hey, why don't we ask Simpkins to put a whole lot of parking there instead of and encourage additional parking at the Ilchester entrance, I would say I'd be very, very concerned about that, unless there's a commitment for the police to be here all the time, and I know that's not going to happen. So that's just my thoughts on that, and here representing for the Ilchester Bonnie Branch Road area.
Ms. Walsh, can I address that?
Sure.
All right, Sergeant.
I'm saying, I'm like, yes, to whoever is asking. Yes, Sergeant Taylor.
All right, ma'am. So according to, I said, I understand your concerns about Ilchester, and so I've been working with Mr. Marzin down there dealing with that issue. So yes, Simpkins property, which is Baltimore County, it's privately owned property. Last year, they contracted with a towing company, and they've been towing without regret, which is basically that's done is that it has, again, pushed further down in Ilchester. I'm thinking, Chris, again, correct me if I'm wrong. I talked to Ms. Marsden today, and he said he's been in touch with you, and that we are extending the no parking signs that were already in place, especially around the corner. So there are a couple things we've been doing there, but you have to understand that that's a unique area, because that is park area, DNR police, CSX police, Howard County police, and that is one of our areas. And actually, that is, if I had to list my areas of concern, Landing is my number one, and Ilchester.
And Bonnie Branch Road. See, because now they're
Yeah.
going up there because the signage, the no parking signs are not clear. They're like, oh yeah, it's not really pointing there. And you know, the St. Mary's Seminary is a great, huge attraction for the kids because there's lore and people think it's part of the park. And there are remnants of various things up there that they investigate. And it's all great fun. You know, you can see it on the internet all over the place. So it's a place where people go for after dark entertainment, and that's scary for the people who live around here. So what I would say is I appreciate what you're doing on Ilchester, but the Bonnie Branch Road, that's where it's going next because I've already seen it, like early in the mornings, even on the weekend. They're already parking in the St. Mary's entrance, and if there is some communication that can be made with the person who owns that property to block off that entrance, honestly, I've been asking the police for years if there would be some way to put rocks there the way that you got rocks there at the farther down entrance, because people are stuffing themselves in there like 5 cars. And then up and down Bonnie Branch, and you can see the poor man that lives down there in one of those stone houses now has no parking signs in his own little patch of lawn. So if the more work you do on Ilchester, that's awesome. But now it's coming up Bonnie Branch Road, and we're going to see it all the way up the road eventually. So if the signage can be worked on there too, I mean, it's sad because these are beautiful roads, and to see every 10 feet a no parking sign is like, oh my goodness, why is this necessary? But what is a sign if they're just going to be graffitied and then destroyed and not enforced, unfortunately, because you can't be there all day long.
Okay, Julia, what I'm going to do is I just put my email address in there and email me, because having a conversation on this doesn't give me a visual of what's going on. And I would be willing to come out and meet with you and you give me a better idea of what's going on in there. Us working together, and this goes for Grovemont, everybody, is us being able to stand next to each other. You point out the problem and us trying to come up with these solutions, because because we don't take any of it lightly. So please don't look at this as me taking it lightly, but I think this is the epitome of herding cats. We put no parking signs on Landing. They're going to go on the Grovemont. We're going to be pushing them. And that's what I said. I do not want this. That's what I'm trying to avoid. So what we need to do is come out and try to come up with these solutions. So if you email me and I'll meet with you and we can kind of figure out what's going on there. If it's private property, again, Simpkins just basically threw the wrench in because they're a private property and they can kind of do what they want. And we kind of have to play by some rules. So
yeah, but yeah, all right. So Bonnie Branch on the Howard County side, you can see the lower end there, the St. Mary's entrance. Anytime on the weekend at peak times, you'll see what's going on there.
I'll come up there tomorrow, look, and if you want to meet with me, that's fine. But I'll come up there tomorrow, take a look. I wrote down where you're at, and from your perspective, I'll look at that as well, just to kind of get a better idea and see if there's anything that, like I said, to try to figure out what we can do with it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Tanis. Next, we have Juliana Bonanno.
Hi, this is Juliana. Thank you guys again. I want to echo those same sentiments. Really appreciate you guys, hearing us and attempting to problem solve with us. I know it's a complex issue. So what I would propose, and I know Chris was saying, hey, we're understaffed, but I mean, at some point, kind of to Rob's point, can we use that data to maybe get some additional funding on your side to help address some of these issues? So what I would kind of propose is for the Department of Public Works to, again, do the no parking on either side of Landing, which is going to be obnoxious, but I think it's needed. But also within that first, at least like half mile or a mile on the main Grovemont entrance, Hatterby and Collingwood. So I actually am on the HOA for Grovemont, and we have been pushing for, this has been a common complaint all year with our citizens and our residents here, and it's really, really affecting their quality of life. Like another resident had said, hey, like with more people and more population, there's just more things that happen, unfortunately, potential accidents, near accidents. I had almost 5 like this month just trying to come into our neighborhood. I have an 18-month-old toddler in my backseat. Increasing crime, drugs, litter, restricting access to service vehicles, emergency vehicles, even people, the postal guy was like, this has gotten crazy. So what I would recommend is Department of Public Works, what I'm going to be pushing for and what I'm going to be pushing our HOA to kind of hound you guys for is really no parking along Landing Road, Grovemont, Hatterby, and Collingwood based on the feedback we've gotten for our residents here. And like another resident had mentioned earlier, the no parking signs are great, but sometimes like, hey, those rocks or some type of barrier that might not be super restrictive to a service vehicle if they need it, but to those other areas where they're still gonna just ignore the sign and park anyway, because it is a safety hazard. On the HOA side, if there are other Grovemont residents, like feel free to reach out to me directly. I'll put my email in the chat, but I am part of the HOA and can kind of help connect you to some of our meetings that we're addressing, and talking about these issues. But I think partnering with a towing company, again, these are county roads. So I don't know, and maybe that's a question for you guys, if we can just regularly contract with a, private towing company, and anyone who's on a resident property, or I don't know if we can tow on a county road. I don't think we can do that, but if they're on private property, absolutely. We've even brought up the idea of privatizing and like putting up a gate and taking ownership over those, but they are county owned roads. So that was, deemed as expensive and probably not an option. But the only other thing I could think of is maybe using that data from Mr. Dyke and saying, hey, like traffic's increased over 1 million plus visitors. Like maybe that is enough data to kind of push, Department of Public Works to consider something like a permit parking program. I mean, or what is it going to take? And maybe that's a separate conversation, but I think that's a worthwhile discussion too, because this is an issue. Thank you. This is Juliana. I'm done speaking.
No, thank you so much for those suggestions, Juliana. Next on our list, we have Aaron and Tyler. My list has no last name, but I'm guessing Christy knows who to unmute.
That's me, Erin and Tyler Bamer. Thank you so much for everyone for being a part of this. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. I am calling as a user of the park. I'm very familiar with Landing Road. Once I realized that it was illegal to park there, I moved myself elsewhere. But and I can really sympathize with all the homeowners. I'm glad I don't have a house there because I've seen how crazy it is, and I know it's a safety hazard issue. What I just want to point out is, like a lot of the homeowners have mentioned, the cans being kicked down the road. Basically, if they put up no parking signs in one place, it gets congested in another. So to me, hearing that over and over again, it really brings back to something that Liz, you mentioned, was, creating some alternative parking opportunity, whether it's DNR or the county takes the initiative on. I know we've got Rockburn, but it fills up. And, most people don't live near these parks, and it's not an option to just, eliminate or not make it available because they can't go in a legal entrance because the park is full and they just don't happen to live there. That's a social justice issue. That's not allowing people that don't have the privilege of living next to the park, that can't afford maybe living next to the park, that leaves them with no option. It's go elsewhere, go to a county park or go to another state park. I don't think that's a good option, and I don't think it's going to work. So I would really advocate for creating like the other entrance that has a park and ride parking lot. Somewhere where we can create a safe, accessible parking area. It might not resolve all the issues, but I think it will definitely help, considering that, we're going through the list of different roads that create access to, there's like a whole block of Patapsco that's inaccessible or is illegal parking. And the Avalon entrance just doesn't cover all of that user space. And that's like all along Landing Road and Bonnie Branch. Like there's barely any parking for someone who doesn't live there, and who's trying to access trails that are, let's just face it, not convenient to the Avalon entrance, for example. So, as a user, I completely sympathize. I don't want to park in anyone's neighborhood. I don't want to park illegally, but I just I hear like fewer and fewer options for those of us who are just public users that want to enjoy the park just like everybody else, and want to do it legally. And want to do it safely as well. So I really, really, really would hope that the county, the state would consider seriously another parking opportunity, another park entrance, something that on those lines to make an actual feasible and I think a better alternative than just blocking off all these sections and saying, oh, well, you know, since you can't park here, let's try the next neighborhood. These are non-solutions. So I feel like the best alternative is to find a place where we can create some safe public parking.
Hey, Liz, can I say something real quick? It's Rob.
Yes, please, Rob.
It's not just as simple as putting in a parking lot. There's infrastructure that's also needed. Where are all these people going to the restroom? You know, the parking facilities that we have within our boundaries right now are adequate for the infrastructure that we have. Anything else that we add, it's not just as simple as putting in a parking someplace and letting people come in. There's a carrying capacity for the park. You're starting to see that in some areas where you're seeing the habitat degrade just because of the sheer numbers of people. I know this isn't comforting. This is not just a Patapsco problem. It's not a Maryland State Parks problem. It's not a Maryland problem. This is a national problem. You see national parks dealing with this. I've attended 3 different conference calls with statewide park managers, nationwide park managers, and they're all dealing with this. Everybody loves the outdoors. Everybody wants to get outside. There's just not enough space for them. We're trying to spread people out. I know the Avalon area is very, very popular, but we're on 32 miles of the river. So there's places in the northern part of the park that we're trying to push people to that aren't seeing capacity issues as of yet. So that's the kind of stuff that we're looking at. We're always looking at property in order to expand and, you know, put in new infrastructure and possibly parking, but those are few and far between.
Can I just respond, Liz?
Oh, is this Erin? Yes, please.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, Rob. I think you're absolutely right there. This is a national problem. It probably is going to become much less of a problem as folks get back to work and you know, are in person in their offices, as you know, kind of life goes back to normal-ish, I guess, if you can say, once people are vaccinated and such. I don't know that this is what the situation is going to look like, you know, 6 to 12 months down the road. But, and I realize that, you know, there's one set of bathrooms down by the swinging bridge, but, you know, I guess what I'm getting at is people are coming regardless. So, you know, whether there is a, you know, bathroom nearby or not, whether there's trash receptacles in that area or not, like, that's not stopping people from going. So, you know, it would be great if the park can consider, I know you're always looking at property, you can make that a higher list on your priority, or, you know, some sort of availability for, like you said, Avalon's really popular. Is there another alternative for another entrance or another smaller parking area just to, you know, alleviate for the neighborhoods, as well as, you know, this is probably not going to be completely resolved post-pandemic, but it's probably going to be, you know, ameliorated, but it's not going to be eliminated because parking's always been an issue.
Thanks, Erin. We have 2 more hands up, Marissa and then Mara, and then we'll call it for tonight. But if you have questions that you want us to see, please enter in the chat or email to any or all of us that at the emails that Christy's been putting in the chat, or just call our offices, or, you know, hopefully you know how to find us. Again, I think everyone hopefully is headed to a solution that works both in the short term and long term. So with that, I will, Marissa, are you ready to go? You 2 are the happiest people I have ever seen on a Zoom call. It is unnatural. I do not know what is going on in your home, but
Mike is going to suggest paving areas of Patapsco Park.
I think we just develop all the park and then it would be a non-issue.
Lots of inappropriate
Just continue on the
suggestions.
trajectory that we're on.
Also suggesting our neighbors' homes for bathroom usages. It's all sorts of inappropriate suggestions over here. So we live back on Norris Lane, and I guess I had a question and then just a comment as quickly as I can. I was wondering about the signage that that you're going to post on Landing Road. I heard the earlier comment. I can't remember if it was, I can't remember who said it, but it was saying that the no parking sign on Landing Road is going to suggest alternate places to park. And I wasn't sure I really liked your suggestion, right, Dyke, about, you know, suggesting that people maybe try alternate areas of Patapsco as well. So I was thinking maybe the signage on Landing Road could maybe do kind of both of those things, alternate parking and maybe alternate areas of Patapsco. And then I guess the comment overall, what I just keep hearing is there's not enough parking, there's not enough parking. I think, you know, people have looked into perhaps the DNR buying the paper mill or anything like that. But I guess I would just continue to encourage creative brainstorming with, I know it's so tricky with the state, the county, Baltimore County, Howard County, all different areas to access Route 1. Even I think Anne Arundel, right, along Route 1 where it gets really bad over the summer too. So I know this is a tricky issue with a lot of, you know, government entities at play there.
So,
including.
What? No, I was just going to say that, I mean, it's a state park. There actually is a lot of space within the state park area that may allow itself for expansion of parking, and that would help them recoup some of the money with regular fees that, you know, on a regular basis, that would allow them to build the area as well.
Yeah, that was just one thing we were talking about, is just
one of many ideas.
Yeah, that, you know, it'd be nice if you could recoup some of the money somehow.
Done.
Thank you, guys. With that, then Mara, you're up and last. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. Last and maybe least. Thank you so much, all of the elected officials and the county folks, especially shout out to Terry and Nathan, because I know you're working long hours. But I just wanted to thank you for the conversation, and also just to say, could we look at both and like somehow balance the signs, the towing, the suggesting alternative places, maybe increased website, social media suggestions on other places to go. My kids were talking about how social media really, you know, drives a lot of this. People take pictures at Cascade and then the rest of the world comes here, and how great that everybody's celebrating the outdoors. And I loved that someone pointed out that this is a social justice issue. This is a state park that should be available for all of us, not people that are just fortunate enough, like many of us, that can live within walking distance. And so I was also wondering, and my kids said this was dumb, but I also, what about, you know, having some public-private partnerships with a shuttle, you know, using a county facilities to park at OLPH or Grace or some of the places that have huge parking lots to shuttle people. It would be so much safer to be able to park at like OLPH and get a shuttle down to an entrance and use that public transportation element too. And then I know, I can't remember if Julia was talking about some of the crime that happens at the bottom underneath the train tracks. And I can remember when I was in high school back in the day, that was happening back then. So I don't know that that's just like, this is an all of a sudden like crime is coming to the bottom of Ilchester Hill. That's always been happening. And I wonder if there could be some collaboration between Simpkins, Baltimore County, Howard County, if at some point you could acquire some of that property and you could pave it and you could put in lights. And I know infrastructure is a whole nother thing. As Rob was talking about, that we just can't handle the road traffic or the infrastructure. But if it was lit down there, that would maybe discourage people from after hours activity at the bottom of the hill. So I think we have to look at some of the not just the deficits, but the advantages that we have in this area, and put our heads together to collaborate homeowners, park users, to come up with something that is both and, not just one versus the other. So thank you for the conversation.
I knew it was brilliant having you last, Mara, because you just totally did what I was going to have to do after all the questions, which is hopefully summarize some of the problem solving that you guys as community members and as stakeholders have proposed and promise. Certainly on behalf of D1, I know the efforts that the police department and Department of Public Works and our state partners have put in. We are committed to solving the problem, both in the shortest term in terms of the parking signs going in on the other side of Landing Road, and in the longer term in finding the real solution that works for everyone involved. So Christy, I think, is working on saving the chat, so we preserve that information there. Please please reach out to us and let us know your thoughts, let us know your proposed solutions. Let us know how it's going. We will check back with you neighbors to make sure that you are making that contact with the fire department and having that fire marshal survey. And thank you, all the state and county partners that have been here today. We really appreciate the collaborative approach that this has taken on. And I'm very hopeful that we do something good there before something bad happens. With that, happy Tuesday night. And have fun, McCurdy's. I'm coming to your house. All right, bye, y'all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.